Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. So, my mom and dad separated when I was only a kid. As far as I know, it was because of the constant fights and them just not being able to fit each other's lifestyle. It was their mutual decision, and instead of going to court and fighting an ugly battle, they decided to settle everything. Because my dad used to travel a lot for his job, it was decided that I'd live with my mom while dad would pay child support. Of course, I didn't know anything at that time, but I asked mom on my 12th birthday, why can't we all live together? And she told me the straight truth. Not gonna lie, that hurt a lot at that time. But now I'm 15 years old and have accepted my life as it is. That was until my mom met this guy she dated for a while and recently got engaged to. I met Ted only a few months back, and when I asked mom how long they've been together, she told me they have dated for a year at that point. So, the only reason my mom decided to introduce Ted to me was because they wanted to move in together. And she wanted me to have some time to get to know Ted. As for me, I don't really hate him. He could actually be really fun sometimes and knows his boundaries. He doesn't treat me like he has a right over my life and respects the fact that I wouldn't accept him as a dad. The problem is his son. I started high school recently and transferred to a different school. Ted's son, Alex, also goes to the same high school, and even though we know each other, we pretend to be complete strangers at school. I tried to talk to him a couple of times in the beginning, but he shut me down every time. And not only me, he also doesn't like mom. Maybe it's because his dad is a widow and he can't accept that my mom would replace his mom or whatever. But he just keeps avoiding us all the time. So I hate him too, and especially when I see mom bend over backwards to please him. But things really got out of hand last week. We were all having our usual Sunday night dinner together when Alex said that he can't move in with his dad to this house. When mom asked him why he wouldn't move in here, our house is much bigger than their place, and it was also closer to school than theirs. He told everyone how he's an art student in his final year of high school and is really serious about going to an art school. He said he wants to pursue actual painting art and not just digital ones. And for that, he needs to work on his portfolio. At his house, he uses the garage as his art studio because there's only one car that could be parked in the driveway. But if he moves in our house, he wouldn't have a space which could work as his art studio. He said because of his last year, he also couldn't just keep the work at school because he'll need to put in the extra hours at home. That's when my mom, without missing a single beat, said that he could use my room as his art studio, and I'll be glad to move out. I was shocked and highly offended at her suggestion. Why should I give up on my room for an a-hole who doesn't even like us to begin with? And why does he get to have a bedroom and a studio when I get nothing? I spared no time in voicing my disapproval of her idea, but Mom shushed me and told me we could figure out my situation later. Next morning, I went down fully prepared to tell my mom that in no way will I move out of my room, but instead of listening to me, she told me that I should be helpful and learn to compromise. She said that it'll only be for a few months as he'll be going off to college in about 8 to 9 months, and that I could use her private office as my room. She said she'll even put a bed there for me to sleep in. I was royally offended now. How could my own mother make me sleep in her office and suggest that I consider the living room and the kitchen as my own extended room? I wasn't going to just sit tight and watch my life turn into a mess for a whole year, and that too for a dude that has no respect for us. So I decided to tell my dad. I knew that he still pays child support and he'll take my side when I tell her what happened. As expected, Dad told me that I don't have to worry about anything and that he'll talk to Mom about my situation and get her to see what's right. A few days later, when I came back home from school, my mom was really mad. She was waiting for me to come back, and as soon as she saw me enter, she went off on me. She told me off for snitching to my dad about my situation and trying to make it sound like I'm being abused here. She said that she always made sure that I got everything I wanted, and this was the first time she needed me to adjust to the situation for her, but instead I betrayed her. She said that Dad had actually threatened to take legal action if I wasn't properly cared for and if I didn't get to have my own room. I was scared at her reaction and the sudden outburst. I ran to my room without saying anything and have been crying since then. I don't hate my mom, but what she said was really hurtful. She's the one trying to overextend herself to make sure that her stepson likes her, and she's dragging me along in her mess. I am very confused regarding what's right and what's not. I feel guilty for feeling this way. AITA, who can't help her mom and is just being a high maintenance girl? So, about a few weeks ago, I told you guys about how my mom was kicking me out so that her stepson could use my room as his studio. Well, I felt so bad after hearing her say that I can't help her just once and adjust for her that I decided to just suck it up and put up with the BS of my stepbrother. I hate the fact that he's an a-hole who walks around the house like he owns the place. I've been living in my mom's office and living room. The kitchen has become my study table while the sofa in the living room serves as my bed. I use my mom's office as my wardrobe. I absolutely hate the living conditions in this house. And when Alex actually ate all the ice cream that I bought just to help me cope with my current life, I got really upset. My dad called me around that time and I couldn't help but cry over the phone. I ended up telling him about everything that was going on, and he just sounded upset because I hid all these horrible things happening to me from him. Then he said that I don't have to worry about anything and he's going to take care of everything. I didn't know what he was going to do, but I did not expect it to be something like this. Yesterday, a CPS worker showed up at our house and asked me a lot of questions. My mom didn't allow him to look around because he didn't have the warrant to search, but she did let him question me outside. After he went away, my mom was really mad and asked me who called the worker. I figured it must have been Dad and told her so. Now I'm very scared as to what will happen. I haven't called my dad because my mom took away my phone and had forbidden me from talking to anyone. I'm actually using my school's computer to write this post. Remember how I told you guys about the CPS worker that showed up at our house? Well, he came back with a warrant this time, and even though I told them that I'm not being abused, they didn't believe me. This time my dad was with them, and he told me that I'll be staying with him once he legally adopts me. I only wanted him to talk to Mom about the whole situation, but this was turning into a mess. I can't just go and live with him. He still travels around a lot, and even if I'm old enough to stay alone at his home for a few nights at a time, it'll be too far away from school. I just started my sophomore year, and there's no way I was going to transfer school in the middle of the year. It would be more disastrous than living in my mom's office for a year. Most people would have found the groups they belong to, and I'll be treated as an outcast. I wouldn't even be able to get the subjects I want to study and would have to choose something that's no one opts for. That absolutely cannot happen. So I told my dad that he can't take me away and I'm completely fine the way I'm living, but he said that he can't do anything now that the CPS is involved. So I'm just praying that they don't take me away. Finally, some good news in my life. The CPS people didn't find any grounds to label me as a child that was being abused. My mom did let me back in my old room, and that's always a good sign. The people over at the CPS tried to claim that I'm not being provided an emotionally stable environment to grow in, and a sudden change in my mom's relationship is making me volatile. But thanks to a psych evaluation, my mom was able to win the case against them. Of course, I took her side completely, and that helped a lot. I also talked to my dad and told him that he should have told me before going to such extremes. I just wanted my room back, and he got the whole system involved. I feel ashamed of myself and how I behaved like a crybaby and told him that he should never believe me when I exaggerate my situations. All this mess was because of me, and I acknowledge that completely. I also apologize to my mom and Ted for causing them so much trouble. And now I just want to bury myself in a dump somewhere because of how embarrassed I am. NTA, you're not the a hole here for trying to stick up for what you should be provided as a teenager. If Alex's final year of high school is important enough for him to have a room of his own and an extra studio, then your life is also important enough to have some privacy. And your mom is an a hole who is sidetracking her own child in order to win over someone else's. NTA, although I do think that you sound a little entitled and bratty, I still believe that you have a right to have your own room, especially if that Alex guy is going to get two rooms. I, 34 female, am a stay at home mom to a 1.5-year-old. My husband, 34 male, works full time, so I do the bulk of baby duty. Today we cooked on the grill and the neighbors stopped by to watch some football. Hubby mentioned he wanted to go to the bar later with the guys, so I asked him to watch the baby now so I could get my workout in for the day. He agreed and asked me to put the baby down for a nap before I left. I head to the gym and decide to check the baby monitor, one of the Wi-Fi ones you can check from anywhere. About 30 minutes into my workout, sure enough, the baby is awake and crying. I figure Dad will be up in a few minutes, so I turn it off and finish my sets. 5 minutes later, I checked again. Baby is still crying. Dad is still not showing up. I tell myself to stop helicoptering and keep working out, but don't turn off the monitor. 5 more minutes of crying goes by. So I text hubby and say, "Go get the baby. Been crying for a while now." Another 5 minutes goes by and nothing. At this point, I give up on the workout and drive home. I get home. The baby is still crying, and Dad is with the neighbors in the backyard. I get the baby, covered in snot and with a massively dirty diaper, clean up the mess, and head downstairs with baby. Hubs responds to my text with K while I'm changing the diaper, but never came upstairs. He comes inside finally, sees me with the baby, says I didn't have to rush home to take care of things, and that I was being dramatic. I told him that it's ridiculous that 20 plus minutes went by before he even thought to check. He swears he just didn't hear the crying and gets the neighbors to say they couldn't hear it either. I told him he should have been paying attention to the monitor, not depending on hearing cries from upstairs, especially when he's in and out of the house and has music, TV playing. He said I was an a-hole for calling him out for being a bad dad in front of those people and for checking up on him, especially because the baby was fine. He even did the whole, "You're okay, aren't you, baby? Crying for a little bit just makes you stronger" talk to the kid, which was really directed at me. I thought I handled it calmly considering the amount of time that elapsed. I also never said he was a bad dad, just that he wasn't paying attention when he needed to be. Am I the a-hole here? NTA, he was neglectful. Maybe you shouldn't have checked the monitor, but sure glad you did. He didn't take caring for his own child very seriously. I'd be furious, and I think you're entitled to some anger. Maybe check out weaponized incompetence and see if it fits your husband. It well might. NTA, your husband knows he messed up. That's why he's accusing you of calling him a bad dad, when all you did was accurately describe what he did wrong. If what he did makes him look like a bad dad, then that's on him. And you are not obligated to make nice about it just because the neighbors are there. What you say to him is leaving your own child helplessly flailing around in their own shit while you hang out with your pals is not okay, period. This is not about me. I am not wrong for caring about whether my baby is crying. This is about you not paying attention to our baby and then trying to make me the bad guy for being upset that you left the baby lying in a shit filled diaper and wailing for help for too long. So I, male, have 4 daughters, all under 10, and I am, admittedly, a bit on edge with any comments related to gender norms, stereotypes, women, and the like. This past weekend, we went to a friend of ours' kid's birthday party. My other friend, called John, that I haven't seen in years, his wife and 3 sons were there. I haven't seen him since he started having kids, and his kids are all under 10 as well. A bit of background on John. He's always been a jerk to women. In high school, college, he just always treated them more as objects. His mom was a stay at home mom, and he's always been of the opinion that a woman's place is in the home, shouldn't work, and should take care of her family and man, while the man should be in charge of the finances and decisions. Of course, his wife is stay at home. Not that there's anything wrong with stay at home parents. It's a tough job, but I think the belief that women are required to stay at home is appalling. In any event, since he has 3 sons and I have 4 daughters, and knowing how he is, I was ready for some annoying comments. Sure enough, he started right out of the gate. Stuff like, "Oh, 4 daughters? That's rough. Gotta keep trying for the boy. I've got my sons to carry on the family name. Hope you have a good place to hide when the bloodbaths start," etc. My wife was proud of me. She knows comments like these annoy me. As I just brush them off, responses like, "Yeah, it's all good." So here's where I may be the AH. Towards the end of the party, he said, in front of 2 of my girls and 2 of his sons, "Good thing you made my boys a bunch of girls. Maybe they'll get married someday and carry on the," John's last name. My response was less than stellar. "Well, your sons aren't really good enough for my girls." I've since looked up comebacks online and wish I went with something better, like if I wanted to hear from an AH, I'd fart. I said it straight-faced, and he just said, "Guess you're sensitive, like your girls," and walked away. Unfortunately, that was not the end of it. John told his wife, and she posted on Facebook, my name and tagged me. "Doesn't think my sons are good enough for his daughters. What an AH." I haven't responded and don't plan to. I have 3 siblings, 2 brothers and a sister, and interestingly, my brother said they would have said worse. My sister thinks I'm the AH because I insulted their kids, which was not the intent, but technically true, so now I'm wondering if I am indeed the AH. On the other hand, no one gets away with saying anything demeaning or misogynistic around my family, at least if there's anything I can do about it. My wife said I was doing so good and should have just went out on a high note. What say you? NTA. For me, it is immensely important that you clap back. It was in front of your daughters. Doesn't matter which 2, doesn't matter how old they are. They need to see that John's attitude is not acceptable and that their father disagrees with that ideology. If you had allowed him to speak about your daughters that way, as though they're property and chattel good for nothing else than making babies to carry on someone else's family line, then they would believe, however subconsciously, that you believe that way too. Confidence starts with your parents. You drew a line for all of your girls. This is not good enough for you. You deserve better. You deserve people in your life who don't place value on you based on your gender. I applaud you, sir. NTA, you made a mess of this, but I am letting you off the hook for that because you were trying to say something very important. Just doing a bad job at it, and I doubt the under 10-year-old kids understood or cared, really. But it's not what you meant, and it doesn't feel good to cede the moral high ground to the idiot mom blasting bickery nonsense on social media. Still, You were provoked the whole time, but consider different strategies next time, not just burns from the internet. But when someone is doing something out of bounds, I name it immediately, and you don't have to make a big deal about it. Sometimes it's get your hands off my ass behind the copier, Frank. Or some people keep their family name after they marry, some change it. My daughters will choose appropriately, and I'm sure your kids will do as well. I think you let things bottle up. Of course, you don't want to start a fight at a social function, but pushing back does not require that. So when he says you got to get a boy, blah, 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 look him dead in the eyes and say, I'm happy with my family the way it's currently composed. End of discussion.